Alright, hello vegan gardeners and cooks, welcome to another exciting video. And today is all about growing potatoes and cooking some amazing lentil soup with potatoes. So I'm gonna first give you some tips on growing potatoes. So as you can see, we're growing the potatoes in the field behind me. We had about 10 rows of them until the end of the glass house. And you can see we already took out most of them. So over here we planted the green beans, which you can find the video on this channel about. And over there in the corner we planted some cabbages that we also picked most of them as well. So over there we have a few plants still growing, so I'm gonna go over there with you and give you some tips on growing big potatoes like these ones. So these are pretty big size. Alright, so as you can see over here we still have some plants growing, but these regrew from the new potatoes pretty much. So these are the red new potatoes we dug out over here. Alright, so what are some of the tips that you can use to grow successful potatoes? Alright, so first tip is I can give you is to always hill your potatoes. So similar like tomatoes, the more ground you have here, the more place potatoes gonna have and the bigger they're gonna grow. So what I do is we always plant the potatoes in a row and we space them about half a meter apart. And some people put more potatoes, but as with other plants, if they have gonna have competition, they're not gonna grow so big. So I recommend only plant one potato, and you can also cut the potato in a quarters where they're gonna have eyes. So these are new, but in the spring they will grow shoots, and then you can also cut them and you're gonna have more potatoes. But the best thing is to leave the smaller potatoes for planting for next year, so about the size of these ones. So you see it's a really small one, and this is what we're gonna plant for next year. So I'm leaving the small potatoes for that, and the bigger ones obviously we're gonna cook with. So we always plant potatoes in a row, so it's easier for me to clean between when all the grass is gonna grow. So what I do, I have this tool that I mentioned to you before for removing weeds. So you simply go like this and you remove all the weeds, and at the same time you can gather the soil that's here and put it on the potatoes like this. So you simply go like this, and you can see the soil will be just compacting over here, and then we'll just push it like that. And between the potatoes, as with Borania, you can just pull the weeds out like this, and then on top just put all the soil. So that's a very good technique right there. It goes really fast. The only problem with it is when you leave the potatoes in the soil like these ones, they'll sprout for next year. And you know, if you plant the new ones in the same place where you planted where you left all the ones from last year, you know, they're gonna be growing all over the place. And this is what happened to us this year. So we pretty much had the new potatoes going how we want it, but maybe 10 centimeters away there was another shoot coming from the old potato, which we didn't want. And then I pretty much had to pull out the old potatoes, replant, as I didn't want to waste all of them. So that's why it's better just to take all the potatoes out that you have, so you don't have them growing all over the place, but you just have them nicely in a row. So the potatoes over here at the end were growing the best, because here was the corn last year, so there are no old shoots coming out. But the potatoes behind the camera, they're from last year, and as I said, there are old shoots growing there, and it was a complete mess. The potatoes just growing everywhere. That's the number one tip. Potatoes gonna compete with the weeds, so you want to have this tool I think it's called a horseshoe. It's a game changer. You know, if you want the potatoes to have for the whole year, like we have here, if you have a bigger area, you definitely need this. If you go with a tractor through here and tilt, the potatoes still need a lot of ground. So this takes care of the weeds and takes care of the loose soil as well. So that's why we have so many potatoes that gonna last us until pretty much the next season, hopefully. So another important tip is about the bugs. So every spring when the potato comes out, there's already gonna be bugs called the Colorado potato beetles. I think they're colored yellow and black or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but there's so many of them, and they're especially dangerous when they get hatched. So you always have to look under the leaves. You always have to look under the leaves like this. And they're obviously not here now because it's the end of November, but in the spring you're gonna have many eggs from those bugs, and they're yellow. It's really hard to miss. And what you want to do is just squish these eggs like this. It's completely vegan. These are not sentient eggs, and it's the best way to kind of manage these bugs because they can decimate your plants in no time. And especially when they hatched, they're gonna be they're gonna look like red, and they're gonna be all over your place. Small ones is just gonna be like it's not gonna be even green, but it's gonna be red, and with all these bugs we always have this infestation here. I haven't found any other way than to remove them like this, and obviously it's impossible to pick all of them because you will see they're gonna be coming all the time as the weather will warm up, especially May, June. It's when they're the most active because it rains the most, and they just have a really good night's temperatures, and it's still not too hot. So that's when they're the most active, and that's when you have to pick them the most, so the potatoes keep growing until they reach a good size like this. Another way to get rid of the Colorado potato beetles, you know, once they hatched, you just have to pick them all up like this in a bucket, and the vegan way is to just release them, but many people just kill them because they think the insects are not sentient either way. Sometimes you would put them in the water, and sometimes I would get so mad that I would even smash the younger ones. So it's debatable whether insects like that are even sentient. But you will see once you grow potatoes how annoyed you're gonna be when they decimate all your plants. You know, it's really disheartening. It happened to us last year. We had most of the potatoes were size of this or even smaller. Potatoes like this were really rare, but this year we took care of it much more, and we have much more bigger potatoes. So it's either your food or it's the bugs, you know, basically. Yeah, we try to do the most vegan thing and just to pick them and try to release them over there, but you know, they come back. We would have to literally go every day and release them somewhere far in the woods, but they can still fly and come back, so it's really tough. So there are some other natural techniques like using the ladybugs, but you know, it's also not vegan to buy ladybugs online. Again, the best way is just to pick them regularly. Alright, so once you plant your potatoes in early spring, that's when it's the most important to plant them, because if you plant them in other time, they're not gonna have time to grow before the summer heat. For some reason, the potatoes, once it hits July, they pretty much fry up and they don't want to grow anymore. So that's why I recommend to plant them as early as possible, as soon as you can work your soil. So pretty much early April or until the end of April, I would recommend the latest to grow the potatoes, to plant your potatoes, sorry, because if you plant them like in May or even June, they will, in my experience, they will be growing the same time as the other ones. So I was doing this year, we planted first in the row all the way on the left, and then we are planting pretty much week by week until I think June, and these last rows over here were planted in June. And I would not recommend to plant in June because those potatoes were pretty much done at the same time as those, because of, I don't know, that hot weather just kind of kills them. They're all growing at the same time, but I'm sure that those over there are not gonna be the same size as the ones over there. The ones over there had the most time and they're the biggest. Also in the glass house, they're growing for such a long time. I don't know why, but in the glass house they grew pretty much since April until I think beginning of August. It was crazy. And here they just, in July, they all got decimated by this fungal disease or something. They just all died out. So that's why I recommend to grow them as early as possible, so you have that time until July, so you get the biggest potatoes possible. And that's what we're gonna do next year. Also, you don't want to plant the potatoes in the same soil as that year, because those bugs, even though I haven't seen them, but they're somewhere in the soil here, and they're just waiting for the new potatoes to be planted here, and they know that they're gonna get the food again. So that's why I recommend to plant them somewhere else. Next year we're gonna plant them on the field behind that glass house, and I'm sure that there won't be as many bugs, so we won't have as much work. So that's why you want to change the soil, or even the raised bed. They're also great to grow in a raised bed because you already have that depth of the soil that you make, because this soil over here, it's a clay soil, so it's really compact underneath here. And even if you work it with a tractor, it's still not gonna be as loose as the soil that you get in the raised bed. And that's why we have to do this healing and stuff. But you know, we have a lot of place here, so why not grow a lot of potatoes without chemicals, you know, without any pesticides or fertilizers. Another thing for fertilizing, they require a lot of nutrients. They're really heavy feeders, so you want to put a lot of compost. The best is the organic compost from the garden that you have, like a waste. As I said, we are building a compost over there from all our food waste, and also from a waste like this. If you have some dried grasses, we're just gonna collect it and put it there. And also you can put your pee or urine on them when they start growing like this. But obviously I don't have enough urine for such a big field, so I'm putting the urine on some other things like tomatoes or peppers when they're at the beginning stages. Also, watering is important at the stage when the potatoes is growing. And how do you know when it's growing? When the flower starts appearing. So they usually have white or yellow flowers depending on the variety. White flowers means white potato, and a yellow flower means these red potatoes, but inside they're also white. And that's when you want to water them the most, because the potatoes needs a lot of water to grow. Guys, so now I'm gonna take out some potatoes from here. So the fork is the best tool to use, and you can see over here we have a few ones already. I already went through here a little bit, so I want to dig deep and then go like this. Not gonna damage them as much as if you did it with the other thing, but sometimes this happens when you pierce them. But it's maybe 1 out of 10 potatoes that this happens, so it's not such a big damage, and you can still cook the potato. Oh wow, see, it's a big one. So sometimes I go through again, see if I miss some of them. welcome back to the glass house. So in this row over here we planted potatoes last year, and I planted them the earliest in spring. And what I did something different. I put a lot of straw on them. So this is just pretty much dried straw, the grass, and I didn't plant them so deep. So I planted them maybe only, I don't know, a few centimeters in the soil, maybe 2-3 centimeters, and then I just covered them, and then I put about that much, maybe 30 centimeters of straw on top of them, and they're growing the best here. Even though they had a competition from tomatoes and things like that, they're doing the best. The bugs were, the potato beetles were not so bad. Look at this. So these are the white kinds. It's they're really big. So I'm just gonna dig out few. And also they're growing the longest here. I don't know why, for what reason, but I planted this at the beginning of April, and they're growing until I think August, something like that. So it's something ridiculous. So they're everywhere, you can see. I swear I didn't put them there. This is what I'm. So they're also the easiest to take. You don't need any tool, you know. Just go like that, and they're right under the straw. Alright guys, so potatoes are not that hard to grow, as you can see, but you have to incorporate certain techniques. The best technique definitely is to grow them in a glass house with a straw, and you don't have to take care of those bugs as much, and they are gonna grow much longer. But again, in a glass house we want to grow other things like peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers. So we're not gonna put all the potatoes in a glass house, but one row of potatoes is good. And we also don't have that much straw, so with the straw definitely the best way to grow them. But second best way, outside, do the rows between with that horseshoe weed remover. Remove the weeds between the rows, and then hand pick the weeds between and pull the soil back around them. And again, early on you want to remove the bugs and smash those eggs, and you should be growing some nice big potatoes. And final tip, don't plant potatoes in the same place every year, because those bugs are gonna be there, and also you're gonna miss some small potatoes and they're gonna regrow all over the place, which is not good, like we experienced this year. So I hope you enjoy watching the how to grow potatoes, and every year we're getting more experienced on how to grow them. I'm gonna definitely use this straw technique in a glass house for next year, because we're getting some really nice potatoes here, and but also outside we got a lot of them. So I'm pretty satisfied with this year's season, and I'll see you in the kitchen with some amazing lentil and potato soup. Alright guys, welcome back to the kitchen. So here we have our potato harvest. So there's obviously a lot more in the garage, and some of them are pretty hefty, pretty big, as you can see. And today we're gonna make lentil and potato soup. Alright, so here we have the lentils that I soaked for about 5 to 6 hours. If you soak them more, it's even better, but I think 5 hours is sufficient. And why are you soaking them? Because first of all, they're easier to cook after. And also now they released some of the toxins that are naturally found in lentils into this water. And now I'm gonna strain them through. So if you don't wanna have like some digestive issues or bloating and farting, then you wanna soak your lentils, beans or chickpeas before cooking. onions. I have one big and one smaller, or you can just use two medium-sized onions. And I also have one whole garlic. So we are gonna peel this and chop it up.
I wake in the morning, I'll just go cooking for the yard. For a hangover. Oh. Hugging, forcing myself to stop. Thoughts of you, Pedialyte coffee and vitamin C. And thoughts.
Alright, after a good cry with cutting the onion, we're gonna chuck it in the cooker.
I'll put it to use. The stop thoughts of you.
Okay, and as with all the other recipes, we're gonna start sauteing the onion and garlic on a medium-high heat. So this is a dry sauteing first, so you don't have to add any water, nothing. Just kind of saute it around. And now we're gonna start adding our spices. So we always start with the black pepper. Next we have some rosemary. Next we're gonna add a little bit of chili, a little bit of ginger, dried spring onions, a little bit of dill, and we're not gonna add the basil and parsley because we have some fresh ones still in the garden, and also some smoked paprika. Now we're gonna dry saute it for about 5 minutes.
The kind I can't afford. The top shelf will turn a drunk into a connoisseur. But it doesn't really matter what the bottle was worth.
You can also add some garlic powder and onion powder if you have.
My heart's not broke.
Right, now we're gonna add a little bit of soy sauce.
Heart's not broke. It's the hangover. No, my heart's
And just a little sip of balsamic vinegar. Alright, now you can see our onions are getting quite translucent. So we're gonna add our lentils. So we have quite a lot of lentils here, but we're gonna add maybe only about half of it because it's a little bit smaller cooker. Now we're gonna add the veggie broth. So we cooked some Swiss chard earlier today, and here we have the veggie broth. We just have enough just to cover the lentils. And now we're just gonna cook the lentils first for about 10 minutes before adding other ingredients. Alright guys, so while our lentils are cooking, we have here some carrots from the garden. This is about 5 normal size carrots, and these are from the garden, so I don't have to peel them. So I'm just gonna chop them up really quickly. Alright, once our lentils started boiling a little bit, we're gonna add our carrots here. When you add the carrots, you also want to add a little bit of water. This time we can start adding a little bit of salt, so you don't have to add at the end too much. So add just a few pinches of salt. And again, let it simmer. Alright, and now our main ingredient that you want to use is the potatoes. So we're gonna use about 5 quite bigger size. If you have a bigger cooker, you can always use more, same like the carrots and lentils. But we have today a little bit smaller cooker, So now we're just gonna peel them and cut them up again. Alright, so now our lentils and carrots are nicely boiling, and now we have here some parsley and basil from the garden. So with the fresh herbs you have to be careful because they are really strong flavor. So as you see, we have just a little bit here, because if you put too much it really overrides the flavor of the soup. So just add a little bit at this point and it should be fine. And now we're also gonna add our potatoes. See, it's getting full, but we have still 2 more ingredients. Now you want to add also a little bit more water. Alright, so at this time we're gonna add some dried ingredients. So here we have some dried zucchinis that we dried in the summertime. So it's a good way to use your zucchinis, and I'm not gonna add too much, just a few handfuls. That's about it. Now we also have here some dried mushrooms from the summer and one fresh mushroom that I picked today. Guys, while our soup is boiling, we're also gonna add the juice from half of the lemon. Okay, now we just stir it a little bit, and now to make the soup more creamy, we're gonna blend it with this immersion blender. Okay, that's about it. You don't want to blend it completely because you still want a lot of vegetables there. So you can see there's still a lot of carrots, mushrooms, potatoes. Now we have a head of a kale here, and we're gonna use this for another recipe tomorrow, but now I'm just gonna add a little bit in the soup. Finally, we're gonna add milk of your choice, so we're adding some almond milk. Alright guys, we just turn off the heat and this is how it looks like. So you see it's a pretty thick soup, and now you just try it out. Okay, so now you just try it out. Okay, I think ours is pretty good, but if you need more salt, just add more salt in there for more flavor, and it's pretty amazing. If it's too thick, you can always add more water or milk, and you can also blend it more, but ours, I think it's perfect. Still a lot of vegetables and lentils there. So let me know if you make this recipe, and stay tuned for future videos, and as always, keep cooking and keep gardening.